Imagine a tree that has been healing human joints, reducing inflammation, and easing arthritis pain for over 3,000 years, a tree so powerful that ancient Indian physicians wrote entire chapters about it, that Egyptian priests burned its resin in sacred rituals, and that modern clinical trials have now confirmed works as well as ibuprofen for certain joint conditions. Now imagine that most people today have never heard of it, and their doctors never mention it. That tree is real. It's called Boswellia, and what you're about to learn might completely change how you think about pain, plants, and medicine. The plant we're talking about today is Boswellia serrata, commonly known as Indian frankincense or Shallaki in Ayurvedic tradition. It belongs to the family Boswelliaceae, a family of tropical trees and shrubs sometimes called the torchwood family. Its closest relatives include myrrh, comifera, and copal trees. The genus Boswellia contains approximately 25 recognized species, but Boswellia serrata is the most extensively studied and medicinally significant of them all. Now, what does this plant actually look like? Boswellia serrata is a medium to large deciduous tree, typically reaching heights of 4 to 8 meters, though some older specimens stretch beyond 12 meters. Its trunk is notable, pale, papery, and peeling in thin sheets, almost like birch bark but with a yellowish-gray hue. When you cut into that bark, something extraordinary happens. A thick, aromatic resin slowly oozes out, golden, sticky, and intensely fragrant. That resin is the entire point. That is Boswellia's gift to the world. The leaves of the tree are pinnate, meaning they grow in opposite pairs along a central stem, like a feather. And during the dry season, the tree sheds them entirely. The flowers are small, white to pale pink, and appear in clusters. The fruit is a small 5-valved capsule. But again, it's the resin, called olibanum or frankincense, that carries all of Boswellia's medicinal power. What makes this tree genuinely rule-breaking in the plant world is this: it does not need rich soil, abundant rain, or a comfortable growing environment to produce its most valuable compound. In fact, the more stressed the tree is, the drier, the rockier the terrain, the more resin it produces. The plant essentially creates medicine as a survival response. No cultivated crop on Earth behaves quite like this. Boswellia serrata has been documented in Ayurvedic texts dating back to 600 BCE. The Sushruta Samhita, one of the foundational texts of Indian medicine, specifically references Shallaki for treating conditions we would today recognize as rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, and inflammatory bowel disease. That's not folklore. That's a 2600-year-old medical record. Boswellia serrata is not a plant for comfortable climates. This tree is a survivor. It thrives in conditions that would kill most cultivated crops, and understanding its growing requirements explains why it has remained underutilized by modern industrial agriculture. In terms of climate, Boswellia serrata grows in tropical to subtropical dry forests, specifically in regions that experience a pronounced dry season lasting 5 to 8 months of the year. It prefers temperatures between 20 degrees Celsius and 40 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and can tolerate extreme heat. Rainfall requirements are surprisingly low. The tree flourishes in areas receiving just 500 to 1,500 mm of annual rainfall, and it actively prefers rocky, well-drained shallow soils where other trees struggle to establish roots. Limestone-rich hillsides and dry deciduous forest zones are its natural home. India is the primary home of Boswellia serrata. The tree grows abundantly across the states of Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, and Maharashtra. The Vindhya and Satpura mountain ranges of central India contain some of the densest natural Boswellia forests in the world. Beyond India, the broader Boswellia genus also grows across Ethiopia, Somalia, Eritrea, Oman, Yemen, and Sudan. Though these regions primarily produce Boswellia sacra and Boswellia papyrifera, different species used more for aromatic frankincense than medicine. India is both the largest producer and the largest exporter of Boswellia serrata resin and extract globally. The Indian Boswellia industry supplies raw resin and standardized extracts to supplement manufacturers across Europe, the United States, and Japan. Global market demand for Boswellia extract has grown at approximately 7 to 8% annually over the past decade, driven by rising consumer interest in natural anti-inflammatory products. Now, the growth timeline. Boswellia serrata is a slow-growing tree. Germination from seed takes 3 to 6 weeks under warm conditions, with minimal but consistent moisture. Seedlings grow slowly in their first year, typically reaching 20 to 30 centimeters in height. By year 3 to 4, young trees begin developing their characteristic papery bark. However, and this is critical for farmers, resin tapping cannot begin until the tree is at least 8 to 10 years old. Tapping a younger tree weakens or kills it. Resin is harvested by a traditional technique called tapping or wounding. A shallow incision is made in the bark, and the resin is allowed to bleed out and harden into small irregular lumps called tears. Each tapping session yields roughly 100 to 500 grams of resin per tree per season. Skilled tappers make multiple incisions across the tapping season, which aligns with the dry months when resin flow is highest. Can you grow Boswellia at home? Yes, in the right climate. It can be grown in large containers in USDA zones 10 and above, or in tropical home gardens across South and Southeast Asia, East Africa, and the Middle East. It requires full sun, excellent drainage, and very little water once established. It is not suited for cold or humid climates without a protected greenhouse environment. One critical conservation note. Wild Boswellia populations are declining. Overtapping of natural forests combined with poor land management has put several Boswellia species on conservation watch lists. This makes cultivated plantation farming of Boswellia serrata not just an economic opportunity, but an ecological responsibility. The medicinal power of Boswellia serrata comes from its resin, which contains a group of compounds called boswellic acids, specifically AKBA, acetyl-11 keto-beta boswellic acid, which has been identified as the most pharmacologically active component. AKBA works by selectively inhibiting an enzyme called 5-lipoxygenase, 5-LOX, the same enzyme pathway that produces leukotrienes, which are key mediators of inflammation in the human body. Unlike common NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen, which inhibit both COX-1 and COX, two enzymes, and can damage the stomach lining with prolonged use, boswellic acids target the 5-LOX pathway with remarkable specificity, reducing inflammation without the same gastrointestinal side effects. Let's talk clinical evidence. A 2003 randomized controlled trial, published in the journal Phytomedicine, showed that patients with knee osteoarthritis who took standardized Boswellia extract experienced significant reductions in pain, swelling, and joint stiffness compared to placebo, with effects observed within 8 weeks. A 2011 study in the International Journal of Medical Sciences confirmed similar results in patients with rheumatoid arthritis. More recently, a 2019 review in Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine compiled data from multiple trials and concluded that Boswellia serrata extract is a clinically meaningful intervention for both osteoarthritis and inflammatory bowel conditions, including Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Beyond joint health, Boswellia has demonstrated anti-cancer properties in laboratory studies, specifically against brain tumor cells, glioblastoma, breast cancer cells, and colon cancer cells, by triggering apoptosis, programmed cell death, and inhibiting tumor angiogenesis. These are preliminary findings, not confirmed treatments, but they are published in respected journals and actively being researched. Nutritionally, Boswellia resin is not a food crop, so it isn't consumed for vitamins or fiber. Its value is entirely medicinal and aromatic. Standardized extracts are sold globally as capsules, tablets, and topical creams. The recommended therapeutic dose in most clinical trials ranges from 300 to 500 milligrams of standardized extract, containing 30 to 65% boswellic acids, taken 2 to 3 times daily. For animals, Boswellia extract is increasingly used in veterinary medicine. Studies have shown benefits for dogs with hip dysplasia and osteoarthritis. A 2004 study in the Veterinary Record demonstrated significant improvement in dogs receiving Boswellia extract over a 6-week period. It is now included in several commercial joint health supplements for dogs and horses. Environmentally, Boswellia serrata plays a vital role in dry deciduous forest ecosystems. Its deep root system stabilizes rocky hillside soils, preventing erosion. Its flowers attract native bees and pollinators during the brief flowering window, providing an important nectar source in otherwise resource-scarce dry forest environments. The tree also contributes to carbon sequestration. Each mature Boswellia tree, with its slow growth and dense wood, stores carbon over decades. Protecting and planting Boswellia forests is thus simultaneously a health, economic, and climate action. The reason modern medicine largely overlooked this plant through most of the 20th century is straightforward. Natural compounds cannot be patented. Pharmaceutical companies had no financial incentive to fund large-scale trials on a tree resin that anyone could grow, harvest, and sell. But that calculus is now changing, and the science is finally catching up with what Ayurvedic physicians knew 2,500 years ago. There is a tree. It grows on rocky hillsides with almost no water. It takes a decade to mature, and when it does, it produces one of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory compounds ever identified by science. Millions of people around the world are taking prescription drugs with serious long-term side effects for joint pain, arthritis, and inflammatory conditions. Conditions that this tree has been treating safely for thousands of years. That is not a small thing. That is a profound gap between what nature offers and what we have chosen to utilize. If you are a farmer, especially in a dry, semi-arid region of India, East Africa, or the Middle East, Boswellia serrata represents a genuine long-term economic opportunity. Yes, the waiting period is real. You will not tap resin in year 1 or year 5. But once a Boswellia plantation reaches maturity at year 8 to 10, it can produce resin for decades with minimal inputs, no synthetic fertilizers, no heavy irrigation, no expensive pesticides. The global market for Boswellia extract was valued at over $77 million in 2000 and is projected to exceed $150 million by 2030. Indian Boswellia resin commands prices of $3 to 12 per kilogram, depending on grade and purity, with standardized extract fetching far more. For smallholder farmers in marginal land areas, intercropping Boswellia with faster maturing crops during the establishment years creates a viable layered income system. But here's what matters beyond economics. Boswellia trees in the wild are disappearing. Overtapping of natural forests in India and the Horn of Africa has reduced wild populations significantly. A 2019 report in Nature Sustainability warned that without intervention, Boswellia papyrifera forests in Ethiopia could decline by 50% within 50 years. The same pressures threaten Indian Boswellia populations. When we lose these trees, we lose not only a medicine, we lose an irreplaceable part of dry forest biodiversity, a carbon sink, a pollinator habitat, and a 3000-year-old thread of human botanical knowledge. Saving Boswellia seeds and cultivating this tree is an act of preservation. Seeds should be collected from mature, healthy trees, dried in shade for 48 hours, and stored in cool, dry, airtight containers. Seed viability decreases relatively quickly, so fresh seeds planted within 6 months of harvest show the best germination rates. If you live in a suitable climate, even growing 1 or 2 Boswellia trees on your property is a contribution to the survival of a species that has served humanity since before written history. For those of you watching from regions too cold for outdoor cultivation, Boswellia can be grown as a potted specimen in a greenhouse or sunny indoor space, where it serves as both a beautiful, aromatic ornamental and a living connection to one of the world's great medicinal traditions. The ancient world knew something we forgot. Fortunately, we are remembering. If this video opened your eyes to a plant you had never considered before, that is exactly why this channel exists. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with someone dealing with joint pain, with a farmer looking for the next crop, or with anyone who believes that nature still has answers we haven't fully explored, because it does, and we're just getting started.